Welcome to the Rufus has a man bun, but it's not even really long enough to be a man bun. It just kind of,
Oh, it's plenty long, Jeff. I haven't had a haircut since last December.
but it's not, I don't even know what you look like. I'm trying to think of you look like one of those big men on a Division 1
I
mid-major
know
that,
what you're talking about.
yeah, you kind of look like that. Like you were, not foreign, but kind of look like you might be foreign.
But like,
You rebound pretty well. You take a bunch of charges. You will try to take the occasional three with no jumping as you take the
am I
three.
like a Kelly Olynyk?
No, because he's athletic. I mean,
Okay,
you're
but
like the big guy that's kind of oafy that takes the three with like his legs spread wide open and shot like straight up like that. That's pretty much what you're like. Anyhow,
you were watching me shoot.
no, I mean I just finished watching
I
the
know.
the vice presidential debate.
Who won it? I didn't. I watched for a few minutes and then I turned it off.
I mean, I think
Watch baseball.
we're partisan on this podcast to some degree, but unfortunately, I actually think Pence won. He's kind of really good at never answering a question and just shifting it to what he wants to say. And he just kind of kept talking and kind of dominated the conversation. I mean, the debates have certainly given me a new perspective on interrupting you and how disruptive that interruption can be. So for all those out there who think I interrupt Rufus too much, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was my mea culpa, as
Yeah.
they say in the ancient Latin world.
The thing is, though, Jeff, I interrupt you just as much as you interrupt me. I think, but maybe I'm just not interrupting content that people find is valuable.
That was a nice, subtle, not so subtle dig. That was actually one of the funnier things you said, besides the fact that you don't try to find your family on Tinder. That was maybe one of the most unintentionally hilarious moments on the podcast that we've ever had.
That was pretty good.
Where do we want to start? We have a bunch of subjects that we'd like to talk about. I guess we were texting about this whole Cash Out King thing that happened on Twitter. And I'll give you the stage to kind of talk about it. There's a lot of obvious issues here as we unpack it, but go ahead.
So first off, there's this guy named Cash Out King, or I guess there was a guy named Cash Out King on Twitter who he and I kind of got into it at one point. I don't even remember what it was over. I think he had said something crazy, and so I tweeted about it, and then he DM'd me and came at me. But this guy apparently was offering. He was profiled by our good friend Darren Rovell, who blocked me on Twitter. So that's not what friends do. But Darren highlighted him for making, I guess, these big wagers that were very successful at. Or I don't know. He was a big bettor at FanDuel.
Okay,
basically,
Rufus,
it was like a
this is why I
parlay.
have to interrupt you when I try to let you tell a story and set a stage. So
This
guy
is true.
seems like
I'm not setting a good stage here.
He seems like one of those classic parlay Pats guy that has these great wins, has gotten profiled. It sounds like his name is Justin Gatellis or something like that. Like I looked him up. Like he's been profiled on some local radio station about some win he had on Morikawa. Anyways,
was he the guy that apparently won $1 million on a Morikawa outright? I think he was that guy.
I mean, if you believe I don't get sued for libel, but if you believe what this person on Twitter said, this is the guy that's the Cash Out King.
But Jeff, Darren Rovell apparently confirmed with FanDuel that these wagers were legitimate. And so that's why it was a responsible thing to profile him, I guess. Or I mean, we both disagree with that,
but that's fundamentally that's a question, right? Is celebrating these big, so let's talk about it. We always try to bring things back to financial markets.
Wait, should we finish the story first about what actually happened?
I
Maybe
mean,
that's
we like literally never actually finish a story or a thought.
no,
We
it's
meander around many different subjects, and that's why we have a consistent
consistent listenership
flow
of 7.
of, yeah. We sometimes we gain ones, but then we just lose the same ones or different ones a long time. No, I mean, what
Hi, Mom.
happened is he was I guess he was
He was booking bets.
booking bets
He
on
was
Twitter,
booking
which,
bets. Like he was
but he was
offering
booking bets at
it
like these
awful
really
prices.
odd prices. Yeah.
Like apparently the Bucks Heat series, I think the Bucks were minus 600, and he offered people the Bucks at even money, and that actually ended up being good for him.
But so I don't understand
Why you would
like
do
the
that?
buyer beware. Why would you trust anyone that was offering you a price that was that off market?
I would I wouldn't if someone said, "Hey, send me money, I'll give you this bet at like a price that's, $6 better than the market." I'm not sending that guy money.
Yeah, I mean, I
In a
guess
way,
the
to me,
scam.
to me, it's more egregious than Vegas Dave in terms of a scam. In terms of like my my
I
spidey
mean, it's
senses going
1,000
up.
times worse than Vegas Dave.
Well, but right, because literally he's just. I mean, he is.
He's it's a. I mean, I don't really understand it, and I don't understand how he positioned it. And maybe this is just a dumb conversation that we're even talking about this, because like we weren't involved in it. We've
No.
just saw what was on Twitter. It's kind of fascinating because it's going pretty viral on Twitter right now, and it seems like this guy scammed a bunch of people out of money. Maybe we should talk about the thing that bothers us the most, which is probably that Ravel has profiled this guy, and Ravel continues to generally promote irresponsible gambling, right? And that's a problem, right? And that's like at the core of. I mean, this kind of moves very much philosophically into the Nate Silver topic, right? Which is the difference between a gambler and a non-gambler, right? Because ultimately, I think one of the things that's always like one of the reasons that I've always liked our bearded friend is because I know he's a real gambler, right? Even when I found out he had been a tout and have sold picks, like, you sit with that guy and watch a game and you're like, this guy's got real money on a game. The sweat is real, right?
I mean, but Vegas Dave is a real gambler too. I don't know if
Yeah,
that.
but
I don't know if that should be the differentiating.
I'm not saying that's
it's
not
necessary
the
but not
only
sufficient,
factor,
right?
right? Oh
Necessary
no,
but not
I'm
sufficient.
not saying it's sufficient by any means. I'm just saying that there are other media personalities right now for sure that are out there that are touting betting, and I know that they're not real bettors. And so it's hard for me to take their betting advice seriously, right? Like that's at the core one of the challenges that I have with many of the media personalities that are out there right now that are talking about betting.
Does this include my second cousin, who we can't say who it is?
I don't even remember who your second cousin is, but it certainly includes like a lot of people that we've taken to task on this podcast. Or back in the day when we used to do Tout or Sharp, right? That was one of the main issues, is this idea that like, if you've tried to ever make a living off sports betting, there is a certain level of, and again, like maybe it's just like my personal issue, right? And maybe it's like people would say, Jeff, get over it. But it is something for me that when I meet someone and talk to them about betting, I can tell right away if they're a real bettor or not. And that's like the first level of credibility that I need. When you suggest people to be on this podcast, sometimes the reasons I push back is I really like to have people on that truly are bettors. Now in the off season.
Wait, hold on. Disclaimer. If you have not been invited onto this podcast, it's because Jeff said no, probably. So don't be mad at me.
Like every one of our 7 listeners,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
haven't suggested all 6 of them.
No.
What? Well, because Preston listens, so that's
you make a very good point. The people I'm suggesting probably are not listeners.
Yeah, they're not listeners.
So I want to ask though, Jeff, what is it like? I'm kind of curious how you can kind of tell just in conversation with someone whether they're better or not. Like, because you make it sound like is it a worldview? Is it just a way of looking at things?
I mean, there's a lot of little tells, right? It's like, do they like worry? Like often if someone talks a lot about like prop bets or something, I don't really think they're like a big better because they're betting prop bets. If they talk about their account on Bovada, or if they talk, you know what I mean? Like, just there's all these like little things that are tells that they're not real betters. Just the nuance of how they understand betting, and like, actually, like real betters always have some story of trying to get down on a game, like having trouble getting down, or getting kicked out of like all these things that, like, I'm not saying there's one thing, and I'm not saying it, but there is this. Do you not? It's like you don't agree with me on this, and I think one of the reasons.
No, Jeff, I do agree. I'm just kind of asking. I just want you to articulate it.
No, but like we always talk about how you and I are very different types of bettors, right? Like you are, and you kind of deny this, and then you proved I was wrong that one time you're in Europe and you bet on a soccer game just for the sweat. And I feel like now
I was at the game. Like I was like, I wasn't gonna watch the game without betting on it.
And every once in a while, you'll text me something because you're like, "Oh, I want to. Do you have anything on this game? Because I need a sweat." So maybe you are like over time becoming more, but you're very disciplined, and I fundamentally believe that's one of the reasons that makes you a good bettor. Now, could you become more in tune with qualitative factors that could influence your quantitative factors that could improve your bookmaking? I think you and I have both said that, like, yes,
sure.
probably that could help. But I think that you worry about the slippery slope of starting to do that without fully, having the time to try to like test out those qualitative. I feel like you're not willing to take that risk for the additional gain. And again, like, I generally applaud you for that because I think that's a very disciplined approach that not many people have.
I wouldn't say it's not. I mean, I think it's more about the amount of time and energy that are involved in like doing all the qualitative stuff well. I mean,
I think ultimately
you can't automate that.
But and you can't, and I think that you get very, in a good way, you just get very skeptical of any narrative that may be a valuable narrative, but you're able to like poke holes in it. And I don't think that's bad. I mean, I think that's the nature of a lot of smart people, is that they can see all sides and they can sort of play devil's advocate.
Well, and Jeff, I feel like for me, like I want to integrate, if there's qualitative information, I want to sort of think about where it would fit in my process, like what mechanism it would act on to have an impact, right? Like if somebody said like, Asian golfers have trouble hitting the ball out of the rough, I don't know.
Is that American Asian or Asian?
Asian.
It's such a funny thing that we qualify that.
I mean, look, that's something I actually found. That's something I found in data. Like I found like courses with high rough, like Asian golfers from Asian countries in Asia, have trouble. I don't think that's I think that's more of like a few guys. I don't think that's something that's necessarily going to continue. You know what I mean? But like what's the mechanism? Like and that's actually something I found quantitatively, but like, I would think, well, what's the mechanism that's going to actually have an impact? Like why, right? Maybe it's a certain swing type. Maybe they're, more of a I'm not going, I need to stop talking.
See, that's what happens when I don't interrupt you. You bring yourself into an abyss of minutia that you just keep babbling about. Like you have that Joe Biden in you where sometimes you should just stop talking.
Eventually I will put my foot in my mouth.
No, I mean, anyways, all right, enough politics. So we were talking about this concept again of like media and betting. Oh, so this Nate Silver thing, right?
Yeah.
Earlier this week, Paul Graham, I don't know if you even know who Paul Graham is, but he is the sort of guy that created Y Combinator, which is a big accelerator in the Valley that has, born many, many, many successful companies. And Paul Graham is sort of an OG Valley, guy, right? And so he actually tweeted out about asking sort of aloud why there's such a big difference between Nate Silver's probabilities. So why do Betfair's odds imply that Trump has a 37% chance of winning, while 538 says he has an 18% chance? Why the divergence? Right. And I said, because all models inherently have limitations, often based on the data they are built on, betting markets generally do a better job of incorporating this missing data. The same is often true when betting sports using models, right?
Right.
And so this is something that we've talked about a lot on the market. At least let's start with sports betting, right? Which is what we know certainly much better than political betting. And we fundamentally believe that the reason that the market is something that we should pay attention to, in your case, regress to, is because we know that there are things that are not captured in our models that a group of experts and non-experts with a wide variety of opinions and incentive to be right are able to capture that we're not able to capture.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And
I mean, people with better models might be able to capture it, but mortals like myself, no.
And so
but every model has limitations.
We've
like
talked
the qualitative
about this.
information you've talked about, but yeah.
So we've talked about this a lot,
right?
Right. And then Nate wrote back, it's because political betting markets are populated by people with a sophomoric knowledge of politics. There are way too many excuses for them when they have a poor track record.
Wait, can I say that betting markets are populated by a bunch of degenerate gamblers? Like, I just want to point that out. But still, sports betting markets are populated by a bunch of degenerate gamblers. But sports betting markets, liquid ones at least, and sports betting markets in general still do a better job of predicting things than experts.
Degenerates, right, Rufus, are not the ones that necessarily are driving the prices of markets, right? The people that drive the prices are typically people with better models or better information, all of that, right?
Correct.
So Nate responded to me, which was nice of him.
He didn't respond to me. Like, we had dinner with him, and he didn't.
I know, but I know Nate. Like, I mean, not to do my customary name drop, which, but yeah, no, I've known Nate for a long time, and Nate and I may have given each other COVID, going from
from
me, we were leaving Boston and we were going to Miami, basically together. We sat next to each other on the flight, which was hilarious.
Can I tell you my Nate meeting story? It was on the way to the dinner that you organized, Jeff, and Nate was stuck in the middle seat. Nate was riding bitch between me and I don't even know who's the other person in the back seat. But
how did you happen to share a car with me?
We shared a cab from Sloan. I think you might have been in the front seat, Jeff.
I don't think so.
Maybe not. Like, we were taking a few different cabs. This was years ago.
Oh, okay. Years ago.
This is not last year. This is years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I didn't even see that our friend Ted Knutson responded to this. That's interesting. So Ted said there are
what
much
does Ted
more
know?
efficient...
He's in England.
Yeah, but it's interesting that he made this point. He said, there are much more efficient liquid markets to get down on. If you want to make political bets with real skin in the game, the models are likely to price in fixing, while the markets almost certainly is. The models are unlikely to price in fixing, while the market almost certainly is, especially when it's more common in politics than sports, right? So Nate's point was that the markets in this case are both illiquid, and his other point was that there aren't a lot of experts in political markets because you can't really make money off of them.
Well, you can. I mean, I just want to say that I am undefeated. I've never lost a political bet, and I actually have made a fair few political bets. And do you know who I credit to never losing a political bet, Jeff?
Donald Trump?
No, Nate Silver. I literally have made money every election off of his stuff. So,
well, so
but wait, I think we're getting to this point, right?
Well, I think the bigger thing that I care about in this argument is not the difference in political markets or whatnot. Certainly there is a difference in like the Gatorade, like Bovada color market in the Super Bowl. That's not a real market. Or like the first coach fired market, like on Bovada. That's not a real market, right? So whenever like a shitty writer tweets out something about that, and he's like, oh, Vegas thinks like that would be an example of what Nate is stating, which is like, this isn't a real market. What Nate is stating in this case, let's not, I mean, we can debate it, which I don't think is the important thing. I think the bigger thing is that Nate does not actually have skin in the game as it pertains to these models.
I'll debate that. Like, Nate has skin in the game because he's putting his public information out there and he's judged based on that. Like, this is his livelihood, right?
It's
a different kind of skin.
Like, he's like the only show in town because he's a whole media. Do you think he has skin in the game when 538 publishes a 75% chance that the Heat should win the series against the Lakers like they did?
But that's not what he's known for, right? I mean, look, Nate, 538 happened. Why did 538 happen?
Rufus.
Why did the New York Times, not New York Times, sorry,
Rufus,
ESPN buy it?
Stop.
Okay.
This is, we both like Nate. We think Nate's good. Nate has been great for analytics broadly.
And he's made me money.
Yes. He made you money in World Cup. Like, his models are good. Like, generally good. His models in the NBA are shit. They've historically been shit. Like, they're the ones that like don't make any sense, and they never seem to make any sense. Okay, so let's just stop there. That's the point. Is not a debate about Nate. The point is, and we go back to the main reason we got to this, which is this idea of people who bet for a living and really bet versus people who don't. Because if Nate actually, or anyone on 538 actually bet for a living, they would not publish that ridiculous NBA shit without huge qualifiers, right? Without huge caveats to be like, hey, we know there's some limitations.
What? Wait, we post Massey Peabody ratings that don't have the Jets last in the NFL every week. So, I mean, watch what you say.
Okay. I mean, but you are getting a lot of crap for it on Twitter. Like, every week people talk about worrying about your net worth and worrying about like whether you're actually never going to be able to get a haircut again because you're too poor to afford it, and whether you're going to look like a mid-major center. Anyways, well, so what, I mean, like, I know you're kind of making a joke, but I think that you are still willing to do that because you are still essentially backing that with money.
Yeah. And I mean, but here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, Jeff. I don't believe my number on the Jets is actually correct, but I believe what I'm banking on is that it's directionally correct. And so and I don't know if this is the case or not. I mean, I don't bet NBA, but I'm guessing based on what you've said that Nate Silver's, the 538 NBA model has not been directionally correct in the past. Is that a fair statement?
Well, what does directionally correct mean in this case? Like, they thought that the Heat were, should have been 3-1 favorites, and the Heat were 3-1 underdogs
against the Bucks.
No, against Celtics? The Lakers.
Or Lakers. Okay.
The team they're playing right now, presently, in the bubble.
Yeah.
LeBron James.
I've heard of him. Anthony Davis.
The
guy with the unibrow. Yeah, him. So the question is, so if the market thinks so you're saying if the market says 75% Lakers and 538 says 25% Lakers, if the actual number is 71% Lakers, then 538 has value in a way, right? That's the point I'm making. It's directionally correct. And I tweeted this to Nate. He didn't respond, but I asked him for the political markets. I asked him, like, okay, if he was actually a market maker for the election market, what would he set the price at? I'm guessing it probably wouldn't be at his model's number, right?
But he's not gonna engage with you on a conversation of that type. And someone else wrote to me. What did they write to me? Someone DM'd me on Twitter and they said, I'm going to call this guy out because he said he's one of our 7 and people enjoy it when for some reason people enjoy it when they get called out on this podcast. His name is at Dan Alessandro 2. He said, "Hi Jeff, one of your 7 BTP listeners here. I think you should offer Nate a large bet on Biden minus 380 and what he says."
Yeah.
Right. But that's not the point, right?
No.
Like Nate is not a bettor. He's not a gambler. He's
Right.
a media person making, and the difference in
Wait, Jeff, hold on. I'm going to interrupt you for a sec because I have to bring it. We can bring it all the way back. Cash Out King offered bets at +1 at even money that should have been minus 600 because he was so confident in his number. Like a rational person wouldn't fall for that. Even if Nate thinks it should be, if Biden should be.
No, but like who knows what
380.
Cash Out King was doing? Like there has to have been some. I mean, like if you go back
He's
to this,
free-rolling
like
it basically, right?
What's that?
He's free rolling. He's taking all these people's money if he wins,
Yeah, but it doesn't even make sense. Like, wouldn't you say like, hey, I have a huge opportunity to get down on the Heat at, I have a huge opportunity to get down on Milwaukee at minus 300 or something like that. So, but I need a lot of liquidity. They'll only take a large bet. So if you want this big opportunity, isn't that a better scam than
he was just booking action straight up? But anyway, sorry.
But
I thought I was bringing it full circle basically with the comment, because if Nate took a bet at, what'd you say, at 380?
Yeah.
Like, why would he take minus 380 if he could get minus 200, right?
Because he doesn't have an account to bet that.
I mean, but
you think Nate Silver has like a Chris or Penny account?
I don't know. I'm not going to speculate on that. I know that Nate's first foray was into baseball, and
he wasn't betting on baseball. He was doing projections in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, I would venture to guess that he placed a bet or two. Yeah, I'm not going to say he would bet. I'm not going to say that he would bet on.
Hey Rufus, if I haven't mentioned, I know Nate.
Yeah,
and he's not a bettor. Like he's like you talk to these people and there's a difference. Like you and I talk to plenty of analytics people that aren't bettors. There's a difference. Like
there's people you're saying bettors like as someone that bets for a living physical money on stuff, but there are people that are bettors without being bettors, like traders. Like would you consider a trader on Wall Street a bettor?
Of course, but 95% of traders are also bettors.
Yeah, okay.
Like those guys traders, there's a huge cross, like a media guy producing analytics around events.
He was not a media guy to start. He was a guy producing analytics to start and then became a media guy.
He was basically a media guy because
like you and me.
He was with Prospectus.
Jeff,
he was a writer.
This is a media we're doing right now.
As
my fiance says, we're casting. She's like, how is casting?
So let's go back to this, Rufus, because we are ending up spending way too much time on Nate, which is not the point of this conversation. The point of this conversation comes down to this idea that those who don't, teach or whatever, right? Like there's, if you, or can't teach, whatever the expression is. And maybe at the core it's, don't take betting advice from someone that isn't actually really betting real money. Because they don't understand the nuances of, what it is that it takes to beat these really tough markets.
So what you're saying is they don't get the feedback loops that are required to become a winning bettor. Is that the input?
Yeah.
The process in this case,
it's definitely the feedback loop, because what I'm saying to you is if he were actively betting his NBA model, the feedback loop would be a bitch. Right. And so
is he actually involved in the NBA model? Like, I think he's spending his time in the election.
You are not listening to me.
Right. Okay.
We're not debating Nate's credibility. This is not like a personal attack on Nate. This is a broader question of, whether you need to be a bettor to provide betting advice. And I 100% say yes.
Okay. I think it's more nuanced, honestly. I think that depending on your process and perspective and the way you process information, that you can provide value without being better being a bettor. And I think the fact that
But we've
Nate
talked
has
about this.
been
Like, of course,
directionally correct.
of course.
On these elections, I think that Nate's model, I think, adds information that the market doesn't. I think, and I responded this in a tweet. Like, I thought that the right answer is somewhere between the market number and Nate's number. Now,
Okay, so in
where
your
in between,
mind, if you believe that,
I
then
bet on
Trump.
Biden. Yeah,
What's that?
I bet on Biden based off of
No,
that
no. Well, because yeah,
because
right.
I
So you
believe it's
think
somewhere in between there. Right.
right? Okay. So you'll
And
take you. Are you going to bet on Biden at this point?
I said I already have a little bit. I mean, I haven't had a ton of like, I can't get down much on it, but I think I have like maybe $4,000 bet on Biden, 5,000, not a lot,
At
or
what
to win that
price?
much. To win that much, I think I laid like minus 150.
Got it. And the
I mean,
market's
I'd
now
lay
like
minus 200 right now. I mean, I didn't watch the debate, so maybe I should qualify that.
I hope you guys are right. I hope you're right. I
Well,
worry a lot about the electoral college and their ability to really do these like targeted social campaigns to influence key segments in certain areas that really drive the electoral college.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I believe Nate is directionally correct because he has been directionally correct in the past, and not just on
It's
presidential
just
elections,
absurd that
but
you can't actually stop talking about Nate because that's not what we're. That's not.
538. What do you want me like?
But it's not what we're.
Someone who's
It's
not a
not.
bettor. That's the whole point. You're saying
This,
someone who isn't a
so
bettor
you're
can't provide
saying that,
information
like,
that can
in this
be
case,
valuable
you
to them.
fundamentally believe that there is valuable information directionally based on, but like, okay, so where we'll agree to disagree, and I actually agree with you on this, that a model in the hands of interpreting a model in the hands of someone like you who is an experienced bettor, it can be valuable. It can be dangerous in the case of someone that doesn't actually understand betting that well, to blindly look at a model. And you know what I mean? Like, it's a very nuanced thing, right?
Okay, so is the only reason because bettors have the feedback loop they get from seeing their bets win or lose, and so they can improve.
Well, and
they
they've
have a
also
chance to improve things based on that. That's
so
what I'm asking?
so feedback loop is for sure important, but like some level of like survivor bias is important too, because if they're still around betting, they've probably done okay to some degree, and also like they.
Ooh. So it's like a prior.
I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
I also feel like there's complicated parts of sports betting that you only like, the stuff that Spanky knows well, right? Around like market moves and what like the things he's always talking about. There is value to knowing that part of it as you think about like how to give out advice, right?
For those of you playing at home, Spanky wasn't mentioned until about 35 minutes
and
in.
Ted and Preston all have been. Who else?
Someone has bingo by now. If you're playing Bet the Process bingo,
yeah, one of the 7
chance.
of you guys has bingo right now. Okay, so
should we move on to something else? Or?
Yeah. Well, I don't remember if that. Let me go look at this. I said there was a few subjects we wanted to talk about. Do we want to talk about home field at all?
We can do that. I'm gonna take a quick break and grab a beer from the refrigerator if that's okay with you.
I'll do our sponsor read.
Okay, let's do that.
So this episode of Bet the Process is brought to you by You didn't pause it, did you?
No, of course I didn't pause it. I let you. I don't even know who the sponsor was. I'm back though.
I didn't even say any sponsor. I was just joking.
I know. I wanted to hear. I know you were going to joke about.
It's just 100% dead air, so we're going to have that edited out, unless we just leave it in and people have to listen to dead air, which would actually be kind of funny.
And to prove that I got a beer, beautiful.
I'm drinking wine. What beer are you drinking?
It's a Lawson's Finest Liquid Sip of Sunshine IPA. It's got this beautiful
Anywho,
yellow can. Okay.
So you would bet on Biden right now mostly on
based entirely on 538 and my understanding of the market.
Okay, let's jump into NFL football general betting during COVID.
Wait.
NFL.
I just want to say that I don't think that doesn't mean that I don't respect the market at all. And I think that there's stuff that Nate's forecast isn't accounting for, but I think it's directionally correct. Okay, NFL.
Thanks for that caveat. Making sure to cover
I
all
cover
your
my
bases,
man. Got to cover my bases.
Yeah, I got it. COVID is really starting to rear its ugly head, specifically in the NFL. Is there, first off, the biggest difference in COVID is, one of the biggest, there's a couple things that are happening, right? One is no fans. One is in some of these COVID games, you're getting line moves based on the perception of little prep or lack of prep opportunities. So far in those cases, right, we had Minnesota last week, which the line shot up and then came back down, and Minnesota won outright as what closed, I think, as a 3.5-point dog. The Patriots had very little prep going into that Kansas City game. They also had some, confounding variables of no real quarterback. But yet they seem, you and I and the bearded one had an argument about this, but in my mind, they outplayed expectations, even though the actual point spread did not indicate that. I think that, 2 drives inside the 10-yard line that yielded 0 points, and then a ridiculous pick six, where the margin ended up like 16.
Yeah.
That to me says that they outperformed, and they had what were very adverse conditions, right? They flew in to Kansas City the same day of that game, had really very little opportunity to prep going into that, and had to get a new quarterback ready in very short time frame. Do you make anything, like how are you thinking about, especially going into this week where there's some COVID uncertainty again? Is there anything that you're going to do in your handicapping? Like you're having like strange situations where teams are getting like more time off. So like the Steelers are getting more time off here. Are you going to like model this as a bye? Is Tennessee, who's getting this time off, but not getting any real time to prep? And
Not
like
legally.
They may end up with 3 weeks off. What?
Not to legally prep. Did you? I'm sure you saw the news, right, about how they were having unlicensed workouts at a high school field. Like they were caught.
Is that why they're saying that they might have to forfeit the next game?
Maybe because they were totally breaking protocol. But and it was a beat writer that broke that story.
That's like a Vrabel doesn't fall far from the tree, right?
I don't know if it was Vrabel there, but yeah, I think you're right. There's I looked at the board this morning. I pulled up Chris and I saw that almost half the games were off the board. It's an interesting week, to say the least. And the information, you're right. I think Pittsburgh, we know buys have an impact and provide a boost to a team, but this early in the season, when you saw Roethlisberger complain about it, saying, because the Steelers are losing their bye later on, which they would have had. But you're right. If you're not, normally you're planning for a bye and you can have that time to actually prepare for the next opponent and whatever. And there's all this uncertainty. So I'm sure it's probably not the same effect. And there's a lot we don't know, obviously, and what's going on behind the scenes here. So I'm going to basically on these COVID related games, I'm going to proceed with caution.
Okay. I like caution.
Are you doing that?
So last week we had a play on Minnesota in that game, and
did you play it? I didn't bet it either.
So I I think we typically make our bets on Wednesday. So I think when I went to play it on Wednesday, it was off. And then we talked on Wednesday night, and I was kind of like, okay, this is interesting, because I didn't really know a lot about the lack of prep thing. And then Thursday came around and the line reopened, and it had shot up to like 5, right? And I obviously, like, actually, I don't know if you saw Preston's thing today that he did on Daily Wager, but it was basically talking about the value of a half a point in 6.5 to 7 versus 7.5 to 9.5. And he was basically just saying, like, the difference in 6.5 to 7 is a big difference versus like 7.5 to 9.5, which is not a big difference.
Right. Because
But
not a lot
you
of
should
games
see it.
land
He
on
did a
8 and
really
9.
good job. He did a really good job articulating this.
That's awesome.
And so,
could I ask, did he mention the new,
no,
PAT stuff?
no,
I mean, in the last few years? Okay.
he did not. I mean, that's like way too.
What's
you did
interesting
TV.
is what we talked
you did
about.
TV as well as I did poorly.
You can't add it. You can't add complexity in there. But I do think, especially now that
that's inherently your problem, Rufus. That's inherently your problem in
on
life.
TV.
No, your problem in life.
In life,
you did not go. You did not go to. God, he must have simplified it to nail it that well. You went to. Did he cover all of the right bases? No, like, knowing how impossible that really is. Like, you went for overcomplication versus simplification.
No, you're right. That's how my brain works. It's my downfall. But I'm going to finish it and tell you. And I'm going to tell you that all these teams going for 2 after scoring a touchdown down 14 late in the game is going to mean more games landing on the 8 and the 6.
Oh, wait, for those of you that are playing at home, and then Zilbo and you, right?
Boom.
So Zilbo,
bingo.
Now you
I got bingo.
square.
I got
Zilbo.
bingo.
I got bingo also.
I called it first.
Yeah, Zilbo doesn't. Hey, does the calculus does it change depending on time in the game? Right,
Yeah,
because
probably.
What's that?
It has to.
Yeah, so that's obviously the big thing, right? Because if you think that you're basically going to score that last touchdown with very little time left, meaning like it's going to lead to overtime, right? Then I guess
wait, Jeff, think about it like going for 2 when if you're down 8 points, you score a touchdown. Do you go for 2 or not? Right? Like, a lot of teams don't go for 2 early in the third quarter in that situation.
Right.
Because they know there's going to be a lot of games played. There's a lot of game time left, and they're interested in maximizing their expected points.
There you go. Yeah, that was good, Rufus.
Jeff, I'm learning. I'm learning from you.
You learned me something.
The difference is between maximizing expected points and maximizing win probability, because we know that the difference, it doesn't matter if you lose by 1 or 2, right?
So what's the time threshold, do you think? I guess it's just if you think you're really going to get a chance, like if there's enough game left that there's like a bunch more possessions kind of thing.
Yeah, to me, I think it's if the other team, basically if the other team were to score again, you're going to be out of it anyway, then that's the time to go for 2.
Anywho, so how did we get on 2-point math? You totally broke where I was going with this.
Yeah, I did. Preston and his great explanations, Minnesota, Houston.
So anyway, so I didn't bet on it on Thursday when it was up at, and this is going to sound like the most flawed logic ever. I didn't bet on it when it was at 5, and then it kind of settled back to 3.5. And I was kind of like, well, the market doesn't fundamentally believe there's that big a deal. It seems like in this lack of prep, there's still value from where we believe the numbers are, and I ended up betting it. So,
congratulations, you won the bet.
Thank you. I didn't win a ton last week. I guess I did.
Outside of golf, at least.
I guess last week I had Cleveland, which was good, and I had San Francisco, which was bad.
I took Dallas. I got some -3.
I think when it went down to -3, a lot of people thought it was way too cheap.
Yeah.
I almost played it. I almost played it back at -3 when it down there. When it
I'm
went down
glad,
there.
on those game day bets, I'm not taking a big position. I'm kind of like, you
Right.
know what? I'll have a little more action on Sunday.
Our
Um,
bearded friend took it at -3 also, I believe.
yeah.
So
I
at
mean,
least you
because
were in good company with that loss.
there are times when I do think markets overmove. There's momentum movement, and that would be something. I mean, that's
Yeah,
something.
that's for sure something I know Preston plays when he doesn't fundamentally agree with the move and he thinks it overmoves. Like he'll play that.
I mean, there's some influencers. There's people that influence the market. Um, People that are winning betters that can influence the market,
With like
and
Instagram accounts, influencers.
I don't know. I wasn't
TikTok.
thinking TikTok,
TikTok.
TikTok.
Do you
No,
have a
but
TikTok account, Rufus?
no. Do you?
I like how adamantly you said no. I
Do
did
you?
have one, and then I was listening to this podcast about like data privacy in China, and I was like, it's probably kind of dumb to have a TikTok account right now because
I mean, you're
even if I'm not a very paranoid person as it pertains to data protection, but that one seems like a little worrisome.
and you're also like what, 45 years old?
I wish I were 45. I'm 47.
47.
Dude. I'm 47 dog, and I say things like dog to try to keep myself young.
You should just say Rufus instead of dog.
Oh, that would have been funny. Rufus, you're getting funnier.
Wait, so I was actually talking about something before you interrupted me.
Unlikely.
I was making a really good point too, probably, but about markets over moving. Yes.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, there were times, I remember a time back in 2011 where we hit like 75% of our golf matchups over like a 2-month span. And we'd bet stuff at -110 and the market would move to -160. And I'm like, hey, I only priced this at -125. But it was just because people saw that these moves had been uber predictive. And, they kept betting it. And so I think those things can happen if somebody with a reputation for like being sharp bet something. Or, I mean, if you had I think RAS like can overmove lines or in the past when they bet stuff.
Yeah, that's Right Angle Sports for those of you guys listening at home. Just to, I'm getting tweets from our friend Brian Mead. He'll like that we're mentioning him because we did happen to mention something that he probably doesn't want us to talk about early on in the podcast. But we'll move on from there. Brian, we give you a shout out. Sorry for mentioning things that we didn't want you to mention
This
early
is like
on.
a super bingo bet the process. Can we call it
Is
the super bingo bet the
Mead
process
like a
episode?
secret square that's not on very many people's cards?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so
So you bet on Minnesota and I didn't, and now I feel bad about passing on the game day and betting.
did you
Dallas
had
instead.
money? You had value from a model standpoint.
Yeah, I did, but we didn't bet it. I mean, just for that reason.
Okay. Let's move on to some picks because that's why the people are here, and we've already gone on almost 50 minutes with a big break in the middle.
Last week our podcast was like way longer, I feel like.
Yeah.
But we had some
we had a guest.
We had a good guest. I thought Andy was a very, very good guest. What did you think?
I thought I don't like all our guests are great. Like I'm not gonna like
I know,
it's like your favorite child. Like all our guests are great. Like I like James and Charlie equally.
But if you had to pick, if you were in a burning building,
there's like 1,000. There's like no chance that I'm answering that question, Rufus. And one day soon,
because one day because they will listen to the podcast archives and they'll be like, oh crap,
they have zero desire.
He loves me more. Okay.
What did you think last week? Hey, did Georgia do really well in your game grades last week?
Georgia college football team?
Yeah.
I haven't actually run any college football game grades.
Oh my God.
I never even thought about it. Like that, I should have done that. I haven't been in that routine.
Yeah.
I did.
I guess they did really well. They crushed the number whatever team.
Oh, wait. Auburn. Yeah. Did you have a bet on that game?
Yeah, just a pizza money bet. Like I like Georgia, so I wanted to have something on Georgia. So I ended up betting some money on the money line in that game. which obviously was never in doubt because the line had moved from like 6.5 to 7.5. And for like a pizza money bet, I don't really want to be betting 7.5 because that's not like that fun unless they blow the doors off them like they did. So
Our bearded friend had quite a day, huh?
I have so many things in from so many different sources that I didn't realize that his day was as good as it was.
I just saw like stuff on Twitter. I was like, he had posted something on Instagram. He posts bets on Instagram apparently, and
Oh, he might have done
he
his.
round robined for underdogs
I mean,
money lines,
he
and they
has
all
those
won.
days where he just round robin shit and like, oh yeah, the underdog round robin. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's like one of his
Is that a
specialties.
staple? Is that a Preston staple?
It's just like one of his specialties. He does a lot of these things that like you would normally be like, that's a stupid bet, and they seem to work out more often than not.
I mean, round robins aren't stupid inherently at all, but the problem is if you're price shopping, what are the odds that like the best price is going to be at the same book for all four bets?
I don't know. What are the
And they'll
odds?
allow you to bet it for the enough money.
Hey, Rufy, if this Oklahoma game gets to 3, can we play Texas?
Um, yes, we can.
It's
We
at
can.
minus.
We can.
I know it's at minus 2.5 right now.
I'm with you on that actually. And
Trending. It's trending upwards.
Cade would absolutely hate that because he
What? Oh, he likes to bet against Texas.
no, he loves Texas, but he would tell me why that would be, why I would lose somehow because of his expert knowledge.
This is like the name drop episode about the process. I guess they all are. If you listen to anyone else.
By the way, Jeff, I did look at game grades. I did run the NFL game grades, including Monday Night Football, after you mentioned the Kansas City New England game. Kansas City thoroughly outplayed New England on the game grades. So just FYI, to the tune of, 11 points better. That's controlling for home field. So add in home field. I guess they still cover it's right around where the point spread was. So
Right.
yeah.
Anywho, you were on Auburn earlier. You know that line's down to 13.5 now.
I was on Auburn this week, I was on them against a few weeks ago when they were playing.
I think you're on
Kentucky.
them this week. You're on them this week.
How do you know this?
Because we were talking with the bearded friend earlier this week. Don't you remember? We had a WhatsApp group going.
We have Auburn highlighted, but we don't. My partner didn't fill in any of our actual bets. They're highlighted, so I don't know if we actually bet them or not. I think we probably did.
I think when you got your returns, is that what we decided this term is called? Returns?
Turn-ins.
Damn it!
It's not. It's a. This is how we know you're not a bettor, Jeff.
I'm not someone that has runners in Vegas for sure. Can you tell me a little bit about any other college games that are interesting from a betting perspective? Maybe we give one or two more.
Yeah, I haven't.
We can jump to the NBA, and you guys can all be done with this ridiculousness that is our podcast tonight.
That's fine. I haven't actually. I don't think these market prices have been updated in a while. Do you have?
Yeah, I'm looking
a screen
at
in front of you.
I'm looking at
what's Tulane Houston right now?
Tulane Houston is. This is awkward. I can't find it.
Is it off the board? It's like should be the first game listed.
Oh, sorry, 6.5.
Is it like tonight?
No, it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay, 6.5. Yeah. See, I make that like a pick, and I don't know if there's a COVID related thing or not. Maybe there is.
So if you like the pick, that means that the plus 6.5 is good value.
That would mean that I'm basically leaving it to my business partner to determine. Like he's doing the trading for all this stuff, and he's determining whether like COVID stuff is okay and whether it's a bet or not. I'm not.
COVID's not okay. It's a disease.
No, it's
like
the flu. It's like the flu. It's the flu. So a lot of people think they have COVID. But in reality, it's the flu.
Rufus, COVID deaths underreported or overreported?
I'm going to go with reported.
Correctly reported.
I don't know. I'm going to go for this is like not my area of expertise.
Yeah. It's interesting because we were having kind of a whole debate about this. And then someone on Twitter that hopefully listens to this podcast said something about being an actuary, and he had like the CDC death numbers annually, and it looks like we are trending this year to have about 300K more deaths than what would be the typical sort of like ballpark figure.
I mean,
Which
obviously COVID is not the flu, but
no, but I mean that would mean that like the numbers were directionally correct, being correctly reported.
okay. I liked, you said Auburn. I'm just looking down at stuff that we played, trying to find things.
I believe you liked Mississippi plus the 24 over Alabama.
That sounds right. I think we did.
That went back into range.
Oh, we liked Florida International -4 against Middle Tennessee.
Nice. Middle Tennessee is everyone shits on them. No one thinks they're very good at football.
I just don't think about them at all.
Well,
Sorry.
yeah.
Sorry, Tennessee. Can we go to the NFL? That's
Middle
more fun.
Tennessee. Like something that we marginally know something about?
Yeah. Like I actually watched NFL games. And I watch every Sunday.
Shockingly, we only have one play this
Wait,
week.
it's week 5, so you actually have bets now. Or
No, we've had bets. We've had bets since week 3. I don't know if you've been paying attention to this podcast, but I've actually said we've had plays.
I know. I thought they might have been like just your.
They haven't.
I didn't know if they were your model plays.
They haven't been particularly good, but they've been plays nonetheless.
Mine either.
I'm
Were they
2 games under 500 on Tony's show right now, which is a bummer. I had Carolina last week on Tony's show. Sorry, not Carolina. The Chargers last week, and I feel like that was a bummer to not cover that game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Browns.
Yeah. That was a bummer.
Yeah.
Because they were like winning for a lot of it.
Yeah. I have the Browns +2.
You have the Browns +2.
It's down to +1 now, as far as I can tell. But we like them at +2 slightly earlier this week.
That's moved around a little bit, didn't it? Didn't it open like pick and then get bet towards the
You must like the Browns too, because you don't love the Colts.
No, I don't like anything there. I make it 1.8. Colts -1.8. So I got nothing.
Well, I had value at +2 then.
No.
I know, not real value.
It's directionally correct.
Yeah, exactly. Directionally. At least you can laugh at yourself now. What other stuff? There's a bunch of stuff that's off right now, unfortunately.
Yeah. So my numbers were like mostly right around the market, except for the predictable ones. Can you guess what those are?
I'm looking for who the Jets are playing.
I mean, you don't even need to know who they're playing.
You must like the Jets +7.
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, actually, it was up to 7.5 earlier today. We got some 7.5.
Good for you.
We took 7
I'm sure
early.
You still like them at +7, right?
We took 7 when we thought it was Darnold. Now we take 7.5 when we know it's Flacco. With Flacco, I make it 3.5. That's.
You want to know why you like that? Because he's an old quarterback, an old white quarterback.
I don't even like him. I mean, my model.
But you like old.
No. I still think he's a substantial downgrade from Darnold.
You think he's a downgrade from Darnold?
Arizona -1.5.
Okay.
Wait. The Jets. Okay. Arizona, East Coast to West Coast to East Coast again. Jets coming off of a Thursday game. They have the mini bye. Like the situational stuff is in the Jets' favor here.
We know how good Adam Gase is off extra time to prep.
Exactly.
Okay, the Jets. Who else?
Eye contact is tremendous.
Hold on. Let me guess. You gotta like the Jags.
Yeah, I already bet that one.
+6.
No, I bet it +7 -117.
Ooh, you still like them at +6 though, right?
I make it 4.3. So not really.
+6.5.
Sure.
Okay.
Like, do you lean that way, and you're looking for?
I'll just buy the point. That's what I should do here, right?
Sounds like you're looking for an excuse to bet the Jags.
I mean, I don't. You have zero factoring in of this Bill O'Brien situation, I assume.
Yeah. Do you think it helps or hurts me? That's a question.
I don't.
Is it like the
I don't.
like the father theory, right? Like if you
No,
have your
I
first
think
kid,
it's. I think
like
it's. I think it's like. I
basketball
think
players
it's.
go off after they have a kid.
I think it's complete noise.
Okay.
You like the Washington football team?
No.
Huh. Interesting.
I mean,
Well,
I
you
don't
do
think
like
I
the
do.
Washington football team. They're your team.
Yeah, they've decided to move away. Actually, I lean the other way. I make that game 9.6, but yeah, they decided to move away from Dwayne Haskins, which doesn't make any sense to me. But
how about the Dolphins, the Giants, and or the Vikings?
Dolphins, I make it 9, so no 9, assuming that Beathard starts. I'm guessing Mullins is basically the same. Niners, who else?
Giants,
I make it 8.7.
Vikings,
6.5. So I'm like right around at least what the market was earlier today on all these games.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So do you have anything else?
The one
Raiders
I like is off the board right now.
Broncos?
No, Saints. Best team in football, according to Massey Peabody.
Saints are -8 right now. It's not off the board.
Okay. It was. I mean, because the game might be moved to Indianapolis due to Hurricane Delta. This is not COVID. This is weather.
They do know the Superdome is indoors, right?
Yeah, it's a good point. You should tell them.
They might not have realized that. It's just like when you like put weather on your model and you're like, oh wait, that game's indoors.
Have you ever looked at barometric pressure and the impact of that in dome stadiums in Major League Baseball? Just asking.
I mean, I'm just wondering if our baseball model knows that all these games are being played in different stadiums. Just kidding, Renz. Just kidding.
Ooh, another name drop.
Nobody knows who Renz is, but Renz is the best.
Does he listen?
I think he does, yeah. Every once in a while he tells me like
awesome.
how happy he is that I've talked about his baseball stuff. And now we're actually giving him attribution for the great work he's done out of
Australia.
Oh, sorry. Are those different or the same? That was a joke, Rufy. Just trying to see if you're catching it. Do you have anything else in the NFL?
I don't think I have anything else there now.
What do you make the Falcons?
The Falcons might be a play. I make it 3.6. Falcons minus 3.6.
It's a play then, right?
No, what's it? -2?
-1.
-1?
-1, -115.
Yeah, I mean that's not -1. That's because the 1 isn't worth very much. Like,
right. What if you played the money line -125?
I mean, I'd have to look. But yeah, I don't know. We haven't
I love
played
it
yet.
when you just can't string a coherent sentence together and all it is just words.
I'm just literally looking at a spreadsheet, man.
It looks like you're reading a Scrabble board or something.
Yeah.
Or sorry, a Words with Friend board.
As you know, I'm not spending as much time on football this year as in normal years.
Because you're just making hand over fist. All right, let's do one last thing. A too early preview of the Masters.
Well, Jordan Spieth says Bryson DeChambeau, well, it's his tournament to lose.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
On the, I forget what's the name of the podcast? Subpar, right?
So is he broken golf, Bryson DeChambeau?
No, it's just that the Masters is like Augusta National is a perfect fit for him. Like he can just bomb it long, and there's so many holes. There's absolutely no penalty for being inaccurate.
He's plus 835.
No, I'm not saying that's actually a good bet for the record. I'm just saying Jordan Spieth thinks it is. But
wait, so there's like a bunch of big names that aren't playing in the Masters, huh?
Wait, really?
Oh, sorry. I was looking at the wrong lines. I'm an idiot.
You're looking at the is it?
I was looking at the Shriners. Yeah, DeChambeau is actually
formerly the Justin Timberlake Shriners.
Plus 115 is what DeChambeau is. Can we just bet Rom at plus 1200 right now and be done with it?
No, I don't think. I mean, let's see what he does between now and then.
I mean, I'm going to do that.
The thing is, I'll be honest. Like Rom gains a lot because he's long and straight off the tee, and being straight off the tee at Augusta National is not important. So, a lot of what he does well goes to waste. That's all. I mean, Rom is a complete player, though, and in my opinion, the best player in the world.
I know you think so,
but did you watch any of the golf last weekend?
No, I didn't even know there was golf. I needed
I tried out. Did you hear about Sergio putting? Like, I tried his putting style. Like, I played with my brother a few days ago. Actually, it was yesterday. Didn't work out too well for me. Sergio putting style.
After the whole
I love you don't
US
even know
Open
what I'm talking
fiasco.
about.
After the US Open fiasco, I had to take a break from golf. Golf had been too much for me.
What happened at the US Open?
I was in like this incredible position going into day 3. I think I had like 4 of the top 5, and then it all just fell apart from there. So
Reed, Peters. I'm just thinking the guys. I mean, I had this.
I had many of the same guys that you had, obviously, because we know that I just blindly bet what you said. I think I took Reed after day 1, where he was like in reasonable position, and then he was in the lead going into day 2. So I felt really good about that. Because I know one of your, like, I reverse engineer your model, and generally like good players that are near the top, especially ones that you had high expectations for going in, if they are near the top of the leaderboard after day 1, 2, or 3, you probably see value on them.
I mean, so what you're saying is guys that I liked before the tournament, I probably like during the tournament.
I think you also generally find value in players that are in often more so in leadership positions, as long as they're not the big marquee names.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean,
which makes me think that people tend to overestimate the big marquee names in those situations and underestimate less well-known names.
But okay, we're also talking about a market that's not a two-way market. And so I don't think that's true in the matchups at all. I think it's like the fact that books are protecting.
I mean,
they know people are going to be betting
pay attention to the markets, because like the markets are always off from whatever you bet them on, because you control the worldwide golf market.
That's not true.
You pretty much do, Rufus. Because you control the market at a certain sports book, and that
is also not true, by the way. That's somehow a rumor on Twitter, but that's also not true.
And that the worldwide market literally just copies that sports book. So we'll just leave it at that. We won't speak in,
I mean, all I'm saying, I mean, yes, I bet into a big market, or the biggest market, but that doesn't mean that I'm like,
anyways.
Yeah.
Okay. No too early Masters talk. We'll talk about the Masters every week, just because it's exciting that it's coming up in November. All right. Well, I think that's good for now. We didn't give out very many picks because we don't have very many picks.
Do I need to give a name to root for the? So this is going to come out after probably, or for most people will be listening to this podcast after the Shriners has started, right?
Yeah.
So
who's your pick? So just say it.
So I have to give a pick here. Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm looking and seeing, I'm pulling up a sheet to sort of see guys I liked.
I'm going to bet whoever it is blindly.
Yeah, but okay, it's so, yeah, I'm not even going to go in there.
I'm going to be back on the golf course.
It's so, like, the guys I find that, like, the outright prices are so different from book to book. That's the thing. Okay, I'll quote. Okay, DraftKings, you can get Brian Harman 80-1. That's a good bet.
Brian Harman. Let's see if you can guess what he is.
Scott Piercy, you can get at DraftKings at 175-1. Good bet.
And that's a good bet.
Harman. But those, by the way, those are like those are both 15% edges. Like, so like, don't bet Harmon at 65-1. That's not a good bet.
Harmon is 55-1 at
Where?
Chris. At Chris.
Well, and he's probably like 50-1 at FanDuel. And like, I just pulled up DraftKings thing. That's all.
All right.
I have a bot. I scrape DraftKings so I have that in front of me. I don't have a thing scraping Chris outright numbers.
Okay. Well, I'm guessing there's zero value at Chris because I don't want to have people piece together the points of this podcast that I was trying to be esoteric about, but it is like the time I kept saying our mystery guest's first name. So whatever. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys all next week where hopefully we'll have a guest again and you won't be stuck listening to Rufus and I.
Yeah, thanks, Reb.
All right. I'll do a quick intro. 3, 2, 1. On this week's Bet the Process podcast, Rufus and I have a long talk about Nate Silver and the value of being a bettor in terms of giving betting advice. And then we actually talk a little bit about football and give you a sneak peek of what Rufus will be betting on at the Masters. And with that, let's start the process.